Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, May 23, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I really appreciate the fact that you got my last video up to 100 likes even though I didn't ask for that. And I appreciate if you do the same for today's video. Get it up to at least 100 likes. If you do that, it actually pushes the video out to more people who love this kind of content. That's how the YouTube algorithm works. Also, share this video with your friends, your relatives, your co-workers, your church brethren, whoever it may be, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Also, leave a comment down below letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at the big topic for today, and that's the seasonal hurricane outlook from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's NOAA. That's basically the same company that works alongside with the National Hurricane Center. That is the National Hurricane Center. And we can see that they definitely gave their forecast, and they actually gave a range. So it came out today and they're giving a range of about 17 to 25 named storms for this season. 8 to 13 of them becoming hurricanes, 47 of them becoming major hurricanes. And we can see that all of this is in line with the other two forecasts from Colorado State University and the weather company. That's the same place that owns the Weather Channel. So we can definitely see that all of them are in consensus with the fact that we might be seeing an above normal season, and all of that has to do with the very warm sea surface temperatures, the low wind shear. And there's something that they highlighted as well. There's gonna be weak easterly trade winds across the main development region, as we can see here. Not to mention a strong West African monsoon, so all of these thunderstorms coming off of Africa pushing towards the west into the main development region. There's definitely going to be even more of that. And considering that there's going to be some amount of weak trade winds, that could spell trouble for the fact that there's going to be little to no Saharan dust like what we normally experience every year. So usually get some vigorous plumes that causes some hazy skies. Some of this even, preventing some systems from developing. So with the weak easterly trade winds across the main development region, it could definitely spell trouble. The atmosphere is definitely going to be more moist, that it could support these tropical waves developing even quickly into tropical depressions or tropical storms, and then eventually becoming hurricanes. They even highlighted the fact that yes, there's a La Nina coming. We know that La Nina has to do with the cooler than average sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific that causes less wind shear in the Caribbean. So there's a chance that we're going to be receiving even more storms. So all of this is what has been echoed from all the other agencies. I hope that you're all taking necessary precautions just in case we are hit by something. It only takes one system to make that year bad for us. Remember how 2004 was with Hurricane Ivan. Alright, so let us take a look at this tweet from Ben Noel. He's actually a meteorologist in New Zealand, and from time to time he makes some posts about the Atlantic hurricane season and what's to come that are very much accurate. He recently made a post today, so at 6:39 a.m. actually. He stated a significant convective pulse, as represented by these green colors, is poised to propagate into the Atlantic Ocean during the second week of June. This will likely make the environment more conducive to tropical development, such as through a reduction in wind shear, particularly over the Caribbean. While it's too early to provide a more detailed forecast, the combination of a strong convective pulse and a record warm sea surface temperatures warrants an extra level of attention around the weather that may affect the tropical Atlantic in mid to late June. What happens during this period will likely set the scene for the season ahead. and he highlighted this map right here. So pay close attention to this map. Alright, so we're gonna be starting it off from the date that we're currently located. Alright, so today is the 23rd day of May, and this is what is being forecast right now. So a lot of sinking here is definitely across the eastern Pacific into the western Caribbean and the Atlantic. This is the time period, so focus your attention right here at the time period. Alright, so let's go out in time some more. Alright, so now we're looking at May 31 to June 7. We're seeing that all of the sinking areas represented by these orange and even greenish colors are starting to die down, making way for more rising air. We know when we have more air rising, we have more thunderstorms forming, more clouds, and even more storms forming. So it's gonna be interesting. So the weather is definitely gonna be changing as we head into June. Look at this now. This is from June 7 to June 14. And look at all of these blues, even some darker shades of blues across the Caribbean and the main development region. That all has to do with a lot of rising air, so there's definitely going to be some amount of thunderstorm activity, just like what he is stating, setting the stage for what's to come. And the thing is, it even continues into the following week. This is June 14 to June 22, and we're still seeing much of the same, a lot of blues across the entire Atlantic basin. So it's a bit concerning, and the thing is, we know that when we get into June, we actually see a rise in the amount of storm activity. So it's gonna be very interesting to see exactly what unfolds. And we need to remember that when it comes to named storms over the past year, so considering that this map is showing all the origin points that storms form during the month of June, it makes sense that we could see more of these systems maybe closer across the western Caribbean to the Gulf of Mexico. Even although it's showing that the entire Atlantic is going to be lighting up with blue, we see some spots right here across portions of the main development region and the open Atlantic. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that as it relates to June. We know that these are the tracks, so definitely pushing towards the west and north into the Gulf of Mexico and curving as well. So we'll see exactly what unfolds as time goes on. Alright, so let us take a look at what the US National Hurricane Center is showing on their 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We can see that they're still highlighting the fact that we're gonna be affected by that system. Well, section of the Greater Antilles definitely still being affected by that system. So section of Haiti, eastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, but all of this is pushing towards the northeast and is still expected to develop. So they're still giving it a 10% chance of development. And what they're basically saying is that a trough of low pressure is producing a large area of disorganized cloudiness and showers over the southwestern Atlantic. An area of low pressure is expected to form within the system roughly halfway between Bermuda and Hispaniola on Friday. Although environmental conditions are not conducive, some slight subtropical or tropical development is possible over the next couple of days while the system moves northeastward. So right now we see that it has a 10% chance of formation within the next 48 hours, that's the next 2 days, and a 10% chance of formation over the next 7 days, that's the next 168 hours. And we can see that they just came out with this update as of 7:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So this is the latest update considering the time. The time is now 7:04 p.m. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. You can still see that the entire Atlantic basin is still being dominated by numerous troughs as represented by these broken orange lines. We can see the tropical wave right here that we spoke of yesterday, and the ridge of high pressure that we know is responsible for sending those easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can still see the clouds associated with the trough, that area that the hurricane center is watching. Still have the numerous troughs plaguing the area with some amount of cloud showers, some clouds and rainfall right here affecting portions of the eastern Caribbean. And if we look closely, we can even see the tropical wave right here. And if we even look even closer, we can even see a little spin associated with that tropical wave. Who knows, maybe if it had the right conditions, little to no wind shear, less Saharan dust, it could be sucking up all of that very warm ocean temperatures to, develop even more, because this is a very impressive tropical wave, to be honest. Alright, so we'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that we would have received some morning rainfall across sections of eastern Jamaica. As a matter of fact, if you remember yesterday's video, we actually made mention that there would have been some night rainfall on Wednesday night at around 9 p.m. if you guys remember that part of the video. And that was to affect section of northern parishes in Jamaica. Just for reference, northern parishes we're talking about: Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, and Portland. Eastern parishes, we're talking about Portland, St. Andrew, Kingston, St. Thomas, basically those parishes in the county of Surrey. Also, don't forget that it was forecast to also affect sections of some western parishes during Thursday afternoon. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. So, Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? As early as 8:50 p.m., so that was a little before 9 p.m. last night, the Cuban Doppler radar images were showing some amount of rainfall coming into sections of some northern parishes, just like what the models were showing. So sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, and Portland definitely gotten on some amount of those greens, even some slight yellows that represent light to moderate rainfall, as you can see by the key on the right. And we know that we have to be using the Cuban Doppler radar because the Jamaican radar has been down for quite some time. Hopefully they get it sorted out as soon as possible. Then in the morning hours now, we saw the prediction coming true. The prediction was for rainfall across sections of the east, and we definitely had that rainfall, more so across the northeast than anything else. A section of Portland as usual, spilling into section of St. Mary, just a little partly cloudy conditions across St. Thomas, and we can see that most of the heaviest activity associated with the rainfall and the thunderstorm activity, as you can see the yellows that we know represent some lightning flashes, if not lightning strikes, most of that was off toward east. Taking a look at the last map that was posted, so this was on Thursday afternoon, this afternoon now. So we definitely saw that we had a buildup of clouds where across sections of especially northern, eastern, central, and western parishes in general. So definitely across sections of St. Anne, section of northern Manchester, section of southern St. James, northern St. Elizabeth. Definitely more so inland areas than anything else. So that indeed confirms the rainfall. We definitely got some thunderstorm activity across portion of the island today, more so the middle portion of the island than anything else, and I'm sure those persons who live in those areas are very grateful for that. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see we're still having some amount of clouds right there across some spots, as we can see some of it dying out for the most part, but we're seeing that most of it is actually dwindling, leaving some leftover clouds, and we can see it all even better on the latest infrared satellite images, showing all of those high cold cloud tops being blown off towards the south and the east. So the thunderstorm has definitely died down, all courtesy of the daytime heating, and with the sun going down, no daytime heating to support these clouds at all, so everything is going back to normal to make way for a fair night. However, the latest Cuban Doppler radar images, let me reload these images, are actually showing some dots of greens here and there, maybe across section of St. Catherine, section of southern Clarendon, the waters to the east of St. Thomas and Portland, definitely getting in on some amount of rainfall right there. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can say we have 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18D on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. And we see Jamaica right here embedded in some slight yellow colors that we can see by the key on the right that represent up to 1 to even at least 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperature. So if you remember today, it wasn't that warm because we're receiving more so, and we have those gray colors that we know represent average temperatures. And we know the average temperatures for the month of May are about the same as 89 degrees Fahrenheit. And take a look at the thermometer. 89 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 31 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 31 to at least 33 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Friday. Taking a look at this map that shows the dry air, we know the dry air is represented by what we see on the key on the bottom, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we do see that there's still a lot of moist air, all because of the amount of troughing still taking place across portions of the Caribbean. So we see more so in the way of blues than anything else. But we do see that there's definitely some amount of dry areas represented by these yellows, oranges, reds across the Western Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico. But what about the Saharan dust? We can see that most of it is actually dwindling. This map is showing 2 p.m. on Friday. And we see that for majority of the Caribbean, Jamaica right here, we're starting to get in on a break from the Saharan dust, even though most of us didn't even notice it, considering the weather that we've been experiencing. We're indeed grateful. And the thing is, this is what I'm talking about. In the map that we showed earlier, the NOAA is showing that we're going to be experiencing less easterly trade. So, well, not less, well, weak easterly trade wind. So we're not going to be getting all of that strong easterly trade wind, pushing all of that dust off of the Sahara Desert into the main development region. So with the trade winds being weaker, I'm not saying that we can't get some Saharan dust coming into the main development region and the Caribbean, but it's going to be weaker, so it's not going to be as robust to bring that vigorous plume into the Caribbean. Maybe as soon as it gets here, it starts dying out, just like how it is dwindling as we speak right now in preparation for 2 p.m. on Friday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we're seeing that we're definitely going to be getting in on a break. We see more so of those lighter shades of blues across the northern portion of the island, while the southern and the eastern side of the island are going to be getting in on those darker shades of blues. That we can see by the key on the bottom right that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height to 1 meter wave height. And that because the winds are not going to be that strong at all. We can see tomorrow both the Euro and the GFS modes are in consensus, with the fact that there's gonna be the winds coming in more so, the low level winds coming in more so from the southeast, or maybe from the south tomorrow, curving from the north on the north coast, curving around the island on the northeast. And then we see that all of the air should be piling up, especially across sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica. So this could make way for some afternoon isolated rainfall across section of some northern parishes more than anything else. We know when we have all of that air piling up, we have all of those clouds building, forming mid-level rain clouds, if not some cumulonimbus thunderstorm high-level clouds. And with the upper level winds forecast to be coming in from the west for tomorrow, or maybe curving towards the northeast, it could definitely favor more of that rainfall across northern Jamaica. These maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected tomorrow, and it's showing most of the rainfall around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And where do we see the blues that represent rainfall? The GFS showing more of those blues across sections of the north coast actually, so Portland, St. Mary, section of St. Anne, spilling into section of maybe Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth. Euro a bit more robust, showing more of those blues spreading all the way across the island from east to west. We have to work with the consensus, and we see the consensus that the northeast should be getting in on those blues that represent rainfall, spilling into section of maybe section of northern Manchester and northern Clarendon. And the accumulated precipitation forecast maps are in consensus with this. So definite section of some northern parishes than anything else. But the rainfall totals are actually almost the same. Euro showing up to at least 0.27 of an inch of rainfall, GFS showing up to at least 0.39 on the St. Mary side, 0.42 on the Portland side. We'll see exactly what unfolds. Either way, both maps are in consensus that we're going to be receiving rainfall somewhere across the island tomorrow. We're in the month of May. We usually receive up to 213.05 millimeters of rainfall during this month. 1 inch of rainfall is the equivalent of 25 millimeters. So if we're going to be or if we should be receiving up to 213 millimeters of rainfall during the month of May, that should be almost 9 inches of rainfall. So hopefully we meet that criteria this year to put some kind of a dent in the drought that some areas are currently experiencing. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we definitely have some amount of activity still taking place across sections of Nicaragua, sections of Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia as usual, Venezuela, sections of French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, definitely section of Venezuela getting in on some thunderstorm activity as we speak. Section of the Leeward Islands and the Northern Windward Islands definitely getting in on some activity. The clouds associated with the tropical waves spinning away. We can actually see the spin if we look closely right there. Definitely probably even gathering some steam from the very warm development region, even although the upper level winds are definitely not supporting that, especially considering that we have a lot of dust right here, just like how we saw on the Saharan dust map earlier. Some clouds still bringing some amount of rainfall to section of the Greater Antilles as we speak, associated with the trough that the Hurricane Center has highlighted. So eastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, Haiti, Dominican Republic still getting on some overcast skies, if not some amount of rainfall. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we can see that there's not much taking place right now across the Leeward Islands. Maybe some rainfall right there to the north of Dominica, to the south of Guadeloupe. Some rainfall right there dotting the coastal areas of northwestern and the eastern Puerto Rico. Not to mention sections of the eastern section of the Dominican Republic getting in on some amount of light to moderate, even some heavy rainfall. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we don't see much happening across Barbados right now, but it definitely was happening earlier. We can see most of that rainfall off towards the west of the island right now. So section of St. Lucia definitely getting in on some rainfall as we speak. Some of that could spill into sections of St. Vincent, not to mention sections of Tobago, and maybe later on across Grenada. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall that we just saw on the Barbados radar, some of that rainfall across sections of Colombia, as well as sections of Suriname and French Guiana. If we take a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we see that we have those grays as well as those yellows, even some gold colors that represent above normal temperatures, so average to above normal. So we should be receiving anywhere from, let's say, 0 to at least 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for the Caribbean in general's temperature on Friday. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Friday, we see that majority of the Saharan dust is dwindling across portions of the Caribbean. We're indeed grateful for that. Most of the boroughs that represent the Saharan dust should be across the main development region. And if we remember what the NOAA stated, the weaker trade winds are definitely going to be responsible for, us having less in the way of Saharan dust across the main development region. Hopefully that actually comes to fruition, because we really don't like the Saharan dust at all, triggering some respiratory illnesses in some persons. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we see that both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus that we should be receiving those lighter shades of blues more so across the central to the western Caribbean, while the darker shades of blues across the central to the eastern Caribbean, that we know represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave heights to 1 to even 1.5 meter wave heights, as we can see by the key on the bottom. And that's because the winds are not going to be that strong across the Greater Antilles. So where we have the troughing taking place, not so strong winds, more so in the way of blues across the Florida, the Bahamas area, the Greater Antilles, so Cuba, Hispaniola, Jamaica area, while we have more so in the way of those greens that represent 10 to 15 knots at most across the Gulf of Mexico, the Western Caribbean, and the central to the eastern Caribbean right there. And we can see the general direction across the western Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico from the southeast. General direction across the mid-development region curving into the eastern Caribbean from the east to the east southeast, or from the east curving towards the west northwest. And we can see all the turning associated with this broad area of low pressure associated with the trough that could develop. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with what is being shown here, even although the GFS has a more robust circulation right there to the south of Bermuda. Taking a look at the actual rainfall forecast map, that's forecast, we see the accumulated rainfall. We can see right here that we definitely are going to be getting in some amount of rainfall across the southern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, eastern Cuba, section of Jamaica. Nothing for the Cayman Islands at all. Section of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. We can also see some amount of isolated spots across sections of St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, and Guadeloupe. Section of Barbados might still getting on some amount of light rainfall. And the thing is, both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this, because if we even take a look at what both of them are showing, we see that there's consensus. Both of them are showing that these are the areas that are going to be receiving the rainfall within the next 24 hours. So sections of French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, section of northeastern Venezuela could be getting in on a, well, not much rainfall. So it's southern and western Venezuela they're going to be plagued. Sections of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, section of western Nicaragua, southern Honduras, El Salvador, and even southern Guatemala. And we know that when both maps are in consensus with this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.